My coverage of Computex 2018 is brought to you by Gigabyte, Cooler Master, Team Group, and Thermaltake. Alright guys, I made my way back over to Lian Li, and behind me you'll probably see the Strimer. They have been working on this, they've been improving it, and in fact, they're actually going to launch it in Q3 of this year, and it's expected to be around $35 to $50. Still not sure exactly on the price, but we'll probably find out soon. Now they actually showed me a demo version of this where they've improved some of the bracket mounts that they're going with. They've removed the screws on them to give it a bit cleaner look. Also separated things out so all those little lines will be cleaner, separated, and they won't look like they're wiggling around at all. An update that we're seeing at the show right now, though, is the addition of 8-pin PCI Express Graphics connectors. These were something that I suggested are probably along the way. These are still in development, so they're probably going to take a little bit longer to get out than the 24-pin. What they're working on right now is making sure that the light source down here is going to extend all the way up to the end, because it then does tend to fade a little bit once it gets up towards the top. But its project is still in development on, and I will bring you more on it when it is available. And you can get your rainbow-powered PC up and going. Here's the Lian Li PC011 Dynamic, and these have already been out for a while. These are some of the most well-reviewed cases, I think, in the past 6 months to a year, and they've actually got a new version of it right over here. Here it is, the Razer edition of the 011 Dynamic. So they're working with Razer. Price is still TBD on this one. It's probably going to be a little bit more than the standard edition because, you know, adding a Razer logo does cost money. But they've added some accent lighting, RGB going down the front here, as well as some underglow RGB effects. Other than that, it's pretty much the same design and features of the O11 Dynamic. So if you're familiar with that, this will be very similar. Here's a mod they're showcasing of the O11 Dynamic. This one has actually been directly modified so that they could rotate the motherboard tray in order to make it vertical rather than horizontal. They've also added a reservoir here on the front with an NVIDIA logo and an interesting liquid cooling solution inside just for the CPU, but it's got actually internal radiators, which are kind of cool looking. I haven't really seen those before. I don't know where they come from, but they're cool looking, so I thought I'd share them with you. But let's move on to some actual new upcoming cases from Lian Li. This is the 011 Air, and then over here we have the 011 Air RGB. So you're looking at a $129 price for the O11 Air and $150 price for the O11 Air RGB. This one is going to come with two 120mm fans, and then the one over on the right will come with three 120mm RGB fans. So there's part of your upgrade there. I asked them to get inside the case, so the top panel is pretty easy to remove. It just slides back a little bit and then it can be removed, and that's actually also how you remove the side panel. So you got to remove the top to get to the side panel, but the result is that you have a really, really clean edge along here, as well as no visible mounting points. It's held on by magnets on the back, and there's also some rubberized material around the edge just to make sure there's no vibration or rattling from stuff moving around in the case. Now there's a reason they're calling this the Air, and that's because it can fit a pretty nice amount of fans for a case this size. In fact, 12. So let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12 along the top, plus 13, 14 since there are two 80mm exhaust fans there at the back. That's a lot of airflow for anyone who's interested in airflow. One thing I really like that Lian Li is doing is including Type-C on most of these cases, or at least the ability to add Type-C in the future if you want. So you got a couple USB 3.0, you got that Type-C. Removing the front panel is slightly more difficult because there are two screws that are holding it in on top, so you do have to remove those in order to get the front panel off. But behind that there is a removable dust filter, so you can easily clean out the dust. Other than all those fan mounts though, the internal layout is pretty open, which means it supports up to EATX size motherboards and lots of room for activity. So I imagine we're going to see lots of cool setups in this, like water cooling builds, for example, like they have set up right over here. I think one of the reasons Lian Li has gained a lot of popularity recently is that they've steered away from their old MO of making fairly expensive aluminum-based chassis that were just often fairly expensive and were well built and well designed, but were very expensive. So here's an example of them continuing to make cases that are in a price range that we can afford. This is a $90 case. It's the Lancool one, and then there's also the Lancool one that's a digital RGB over there. Only a $10 price difference between these, 90 bucks for this one, 100 bucks for that one, other than the fact that the one on the right has addressable RGBs on the front so you can get fancier with your RGB effects. It also includes a Type-C port up on the top. This one also has a Type-C slot, so if you get one of those Type-C extension cables like I used, like 8 months ago when I upgraded Arctic Panther with Type-C, you could add that in the future. And again, I just like having that on there, and the bracket will allow you to screw it in, and you won't have to do any crazy modding in order to get that installed. Or if you know you want the Type-C from the get-go, just get the digitally addressable one, and it comes with it installed. In my opinion, that's maybe even a better upgrade than the addressable RGBs, at least slightly more practical. The Lancool one also has a removable top panel, and under there you can add a dust filter. It easily pops off from the back. Just a couple thumb screws hold on the tempered glass side panel, and that's fairly easy to remove as well. There's a power supply basement down at the bottom, and it's got a couple metal panels on top of that. Those will store SSDs, and you can remove them. If you're not going to put SSDs down there, or if you want a little bit more room for a two-way SLI setup, you can just pop those off, and then that also opens up a lot more airflow from the bottom of the case. Around the back, you have plenty of room for cable management. They have cable grommets installed there as well, and a couple more SSD trays. They're tucked away over to the left, but you can remove those and move them over to the right, and there's a couple more mounting points for that just below the CPU backplate cutout on the motherboard tray. Now, my main question for this case was how to get at the dust filter on the front. It does seem like it is a little bit more work to get that off, but there is a dust filter just behind this panel right here, so it will collect dust. Maybe something you're only going to clean out every few months, but that is removable eventually. And then other than that, USB Type-C port up here, you also got a power button, an LED control button, and then a couple more USB 3.0 ports. And finally, here is a PC chassis / Vert desk with a tempered glass top piece. Lian Li has actually made a dual system version of this before. They've shrunk it down a little bit, made it a little bit smaller, made it a little bit more affordable. It's still going to cost you $1,000, but bear in mind this is not just a computer case, it's also furniture, as well as a nice clean tabletop. Plenty of room in there for an epic water-cooled build, as you can see. They got a Bits power system in there with a triple fan radiator going, and that's just looking quite sexy with the RGB LEDs. Because this is a desk, there's plenty of room inside for activities and water cooling. Up here they have a 360 rad mounted, but that can actually support up to a 420 millimeter radiator, depending on the orientation of the fans. You want to point them at you if you live somewhere where it's cold, right? Then it'll give you nice warm air right down onto your lap. Or you rotate them and then it can pull air in, and you won't get warm if you live somewhere where it's warm. There's also a 240 or 280 millimeter radiator mounting point at the back, and then another 120 right there. But guys, that's going to wrap it up for my coverage here at the Lian Li booth at Computex 2018. They got some epic new stuff, so check it out. Most of the stuff's coming out in Q3 of this year, but I'll hopefully be bringing you more coverage of that in the future. In the meantime, a big thank you to my sponsors for Computex 2018, Gigabyte, Cooler Master, Thermaltake, and Team Group. And a thank you to you guys for watching this video. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed it, and subscribe, because I do still have more Computex videos coming very soon. Thanks for watching.